It's not just students, it's also the general population here in Orlando. People are talking about this more and they want more information. So the fact that they not only want more information, but they want to share that information and want to connect with other people that also want to talk about these topics. I mean, you couldn't ask for more than that really right now. You want to constantly be driving that conversation. I think Dr. Marshall Shepard said it best, it's like us just talking to ourselves, it doesn't do any good. We need to constantly be sharing this information outside of these walls, otherwise it's pointless.
You're just funny. It's funny, the way you tell the story and everything.
Funny how?
Come here though. Yeah, he's crazy, see? Who are you?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Are you ready?
You ready? Okay, so my audio is rolling, my video is rolling, and why are you here?
So I first learned about climate correction through a friend of a friend, and I've been a vegan for about 2.5 years. So I mainly did it for health reasons, and then turns out when you get immersed in that vegan culture, and even if you just eat a little bit less meat, somehow the earth ends up finding its way into the conversation after a few minutes. So it was kind of great to get involved with a lot of different foundations and communities, and I found out about the climate correction through that. And then turns out I had a mutual friend that is one of the founders. So this is their second year, and this is my first year here, and I actually host a podcast, the Berardo podcast. So I kind of use it as a platform to help spread as much knowledge as I can of whether it's health, wellness, fitness, being vegan, trying to eat less meat, trying to do good with the environment, just being a better human being. And the climate correction is kind of helping launch, not just my platform, but just the knowledge of learning about this issue, because I didn't know a lot about it. And once I kind of dove a little bit more into their foundation and the great things they're doing for the city and the state, it really got me a lot more interested. So I'm still here just kind of observing and learning a lot. I think a lot of us should feel that way, where it's okay to ask questions and it's okay to admit that we don't know something, even if you think you know a lot about it. Maybe the more questions you ask, you might learn some stuff. So that's kind of why I'm here, to learn as much as I can and to have some fun in the process. So ladies and gents, thanks for tuning in. We got our first guest of the Climate Correction 2019. This is the second annual. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me introduce
Corbin Schaus, research fellow, Volo Foundation.
Christopher Snyder, policy advisor to
Very
the Volo
cool.
Foundation.
Excellent. Okay. So we talked about you guys are both local to Florida now, technically.
Now,
Yeah,
So yeah, once you pass a year, again, you're Floridians now.
we're in the club. Yeah.
You're sucked in the club now.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit, and hopefully my listeners know a little bit about the Volo Foundation. But if we can, we'll start with you, Corbin, right?
Yes.
So we'll start with you. What exactly do you do, and what's the purpose here today?
So yeah, I'm a student at the University of Miami, and so I actually was a research intern this past summer, and I worked on basically trying to connect climate change with people's everyday lives, and especially with their economic lives. So I've done a lot of research specifically on flood insurance and how flood insurance premiums are going to respond to increased flood risk from climate change.
Wow.
But really, wherever we see kind of a productive path to do that connecting, I've worked on that. Extreme heat and its relationship to mortality and people's work environment, all that kind of stuff. So I just research all the ways that climate affects our daily lives.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that Florida was a good pick for heat and flood insurance.
Absolutely.
That's
Florida is really ground zero for climate change,
Yeah.
and we can't forget that.
Yeah, 100%. And then what are you seeing from the general public? Because I would imagine you do a lot of work with the College of UM.
Yes. Yeah.
So what are you seeing from the people out there? Is there a lot of pushback, or people starting to kind of understand the concept, or they're thinking it's, using the word loosely, fake news? I mean, what exactly is the demographic that you're looking at?
There's a wide spectrum of belief and feeling on climate change in society and even in the community at UM, and we've encountered all stripes at Volo.
Yeah.
But I think There is a growing awareness, and I think there's a growing awareness not only of the problem generally, but of its effect on our daily lives and on kitchen table issues, as Dr. Shepard was talking about in there earlier at the conference. So.
Yeah, and that was great. And I mean, Chris, just working with Volo, you're starting to see conventions like this, and this is the second annual climate correction. Are you starting to see that this type of information is so beneficial, not just to students, but just the general public and getting the word out?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's been interesting is there's a lot of focus on Florida now. I think a recognition that it is ground zero for climate change. It's a different place politically, I think, than other parts of the country. And just the importance of Florida in terms of national politics and the nexus, between that and the impacts that climate change are having here. I think, among from the research we've done, we recently held some focus groups to try and get a better understanding of how Floridians think about climate change and how they perceive the issue and their attitudes towards what needs to be done. There's a growing recognition that climate change is here. It's not something abstract, far off in the future. It's affecting us now. It's affecting our lives, our way of life, regardless of where people live in the state. What their background is. There's something about climate change that's affecting them, either their jobs or their leisure activities, and they're really starting to think about the impact it'll have on their lives, on their kids' lives, now and in the future.
Yeah, and that's a great point brought up too, because I think now we're starting to see it not just with weather and things like that, but people are really starting to get just overall aware of what they're putting in their body, B, what's going on at home, what's going on at work. So people, I think, again, I hate to say lack of, but I think just people are getting smarter. They're starting to understand, especially with the internet, that's really helping us spread the word, and people are starting to see what's going on around.
I would say people are developing a better understanding, but I still think there's a ways to go. I think there's still a lot of conflicting information and conflicting signals, and you see that when you talk to people. I think there's still a little bit of a struggle, to really for coherence in their understanding of what's causing it, what's known versus what's still kind of in question, and how direct the connections are. And I think that's conferences like this and a lot of the kind of public information that campaigns that we're working on with our partners are really focused on, is trying to increase really the coherence of people's understandings, what they can do themselves and what really needs to be done from a policy perspective, what they should be holding their leaders accountable for, and those kind of questions. Yeah,
and if you're a local, whether it's in Florida or any other state, if you believe in this, what exactly can you do to not just get with those local policyholders and leadership, but what can you do as a citizen to spread awareness, to do better by the environment? What can you do locally yourself?
I would say the first thing is to vote for policy at the national level, especially. I mean, climate change is a global problem, but the best thing that we can do is advocate for national policy on this issue. And I know that that's not quite as engaging as something you're doing in your home or something, but that's something that I really want people to know, is that policy change is the real big lever we can pull to make change on this issue.
Because it is great that we're doing what we can. If you buy a Tesla, that's fantastic, but if you're not affecting it on a national, global scale, really you are making an impact, but there's a bigger impact that can be made.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
exactly.
It's tough to make an impact on necessarily on the big picture in your own everyday choices, but your own everyday choices and making it part of your lifestyle, making it part of your identity, and it becomes something that you talk about your friends and neighbors with, and really that's how social movements grow. So from that perspective, I think finding the individual changes you can make, whether it's changing your diet, reducing your use of single-use plastics, finding ways to be more efficient in your use of electricity at home, turning the AC up a couple degrees or down a couple degrees.
Those little things make a big difference.
Yeah, they make a big difference because they change how you think about your own life and how you talk to your friends and neighbors, like I said, and the expectations you set, not for yourself, but for the people around you and the leaders who you look to.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, that's...
And that's what's great about the Volo Foundation and so many other foundations that are helping spreading the word. And, we kind of have to start acting like we're one team, right? We're not, it's not the AFC versus the NFC. It's not, the girls versus the guys. It's not, we have to really act like we're all earthlings and take care of this place. So I know you guys are pressed for time, but I appreciate you guys hanging out with me for a couple minutes and look forward to hanging with you for the rest of the day. And just for my listeners out there, how can people find you if they want to ask questions or if they want to, look at your research or anything like that? Corbin, we'll start with you.
VoloFoundation.org is
Cool.
our website, and it has a lot of our research and our partners and the programs that they engage in. So that's probably the best place to reach us.
Awesome.
And follow us on the social medias.
That's right.
We've got a presence there too, and always trying to get out the best information we have so that people can be more
Totally.
well informed.
And I'll make sure I share all that stuff as well. So again, guys, thank you for the time, and let's have some fun today.
Yeah,
Certainly,
thanks for
thanks.
having us.
All right, cool,
Good to be here.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with Abigail Axelrod. I wanted to say Axelrose because you got it in my head
I
now.
know, it's true. It's whatever, it works.
But she has given us a couple minutes. We want to learn as much as we can, obviously, from the climate correction. I believe, is this your first year or second year organizing it?
This is the second year,
Wow.
second annual, and my second year with it. So yes.
That's great. So what do you do for Volo Foundation?
I'm the program director for Volo Foundation, so I research and coordinate all of our programs. So that's all of the organizations or charities that we gift to annually.
Excellent.
And then and now I'm director of climate correction. So along with my counterpart at UCF, Jara Watson-Colin.
Oh, very good.
So,
Okay. And why did you guys pick UCF? What's so beneficial that versus any other?
Yeah,
area?
well, UCF is, first off, it's the second largest university in the country, which is impressive in itself. And they have an incredible department dedicated to sustainable initiatives. And so Jara and David Norvell, who run that department, they're really keen and aware on just how to drive action in students. And so we knew at Volo that we wanted that component, basically, of young minds driving these climate solutions forward. And then, Orlando as well is just such a wonderful hub
Yeah.
to come
100%.
to.
And it is incredible because I used to live in Orlando, and now I'm over in Tampa, but just to see how much it's changed and the youth of
Yeah.
Orlando, I'm really starting to see kind of this, because again, I went to Valencia Community College like 15 years ago.
Oh, right. So that's close.
Yeah. So things have changed drastically, and
Mm-hmm.
it's incredible to kind of see the evolution of the mindset of students. And are you starting to see that working in this foundation? Because I think we talked about it a few minutes ago, where last year compared to this year, the attendance. Are you seeing a big?
It's true. Yeah, we have like doubled in size, basically just
Wow.
100% up from where we were last year, which is really it's really awe-inspiring. It's not just students; it's also the general population here in Orlando. People are talking about this more, and they want more information. So the fact that they not only want more information, but they want to share that information and want to connect with other people that also want to talk about these topics. You couldn't ask for more than that, really. Right now, you want to constantly be driving that conversation. I think Dr. Marshall Shepard said it best. It's like us just talking to ourselves, it doesn't do any good. We need to constantly be sharing this information outside of these walls. Otherwise, it's pointless.
What's the point? Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was your passion to get involved with the Volo Foundation and their projects?
So, well, I have a master's in nonprofit administration, and so after grad school, I knew I wanted to be in the philanthropy world, and I came across David and Thais. I felt really passionate about what they were doing with Volo, and at the time, they weren't focused on climate. When I came to them 4 years ago, and we were focused on education and health and a lot of other great work. And then halfway through, really, David and Thais shifted their mindset because they realized just how significant climate change was. And so, we came together, we formed strategic plans about how to really make this shift as smooth as possible for our programs, but also internally and make the biggest impact. And so we've been fortunate. We've really only been focused on climate solutions heavily for the last 2.5 years, and so we've made some incredible strides.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, the fact that, we were just talking to Chris and Corbin.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so, and they were just telling us, which I didn't even think about, but Florida is the perfect spot.
It is.
To not just, study climate change, but just to get involved in the people. And it's really just a great state where people are wanting to get educated on the topic. And are you starting to see that, how you organize these events, and are you starting to see people are a little bit more receptive to what you guys are doing?
I think so. I think so. And, another component that we added this year is called the Volo Vista Award. And that is completely an award for just student innovators. So students, they have to be in a university and they have a climate solution. And so they applied to us. And then David and Thais selected 4 finalists to go up here today, actually, to pitch their ideas, kind of like Shark Tank. And basically they'll be awarded funds from Volo Foundation. Their university will be awarded funds from Volo Foundation to further their efforts next year.
That's way too cool.
Because we know that more students are getting involved, and we want them to be involved. So any incentives we can offer along the way, it's just that we're more about that long-term goal.
Yeah, and I always goof around with my friends. Last time I did this podcast, and they say, is this really impactful? Is this important? Do we have to worry about this now? And I say to myself, I go, well, what do you think is more important? Is it, stressing to your government about the stop sign that bothers you on your street? Or should we talk about, the earth and how it's changing and what we can do to help our kids and our kids' kids? So I just don't think they're starting to realize it. And especially me doing podcasts and interviewing a lot of different people, I'm starting to understand that over the last couple of years, people are really starting to say, wait a minute, hold on.
Yeah.
So all these people can't be wrong.
Right.
Right. And they have to do their own research and then move the needle from there.
I agree. I tell people a lot of the times that, think about the downside, really the downside to both scenarios, the downside to having climate solutions and the downside to not. And I mean, what's the downside to having cleaner air and better drinking water and, more longevity really in our buildings because of energy efficiency? And then what's the downside to more catastrophic storms, rising sea levels, more red tide?
Yeah.
And logically, when you look at the two together, it becomes a very logical explanation why you should get involved in climate solutions, not a political one.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, you couldn't have said it best, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
You did an unbelievable job with the help of, obviously, Volo. You have a great team.
I appreciate it. I do, yes.
And UCF, it seems like they're really on board with everything, so it's really cool to see.
They're amazing. Well, thank you so much for this.
No, thank you. And we'll definitely keep bothering you throughout the course of the day.
Okay,
So
good.
Thanks, Abigail. Appreciate it. Ladies and gents, we are with one of the founders of the Volo Foundation. You recognize her from many Berardo podcasts and me talking about her numerous times. Ms. Thais Lopez. Hey.
An honor to be with you again.
Oh, stop it.
It's always nice to be with Tony.
Well, thank you for the invite. This is great. So we are currently at the Student Union at UCF. So this is the second annual Climate Correction. This is Climate Correction 2019. Hashtag Climate Correction 2019?
Yes, or CC 2019.
There you go. So what made you guys pick UCF in Orlando?
Well, I live here for 20 years. All my kids, the 6 of them, were born here in Orlando. And it's close to our heart, but also Orlando, like I'm sure you heard from Chris Castro, is booming with anything that has to do with environmental protection. And they are a pioneer in the energy solutions and sustainability.
And I mean, how are you seeing, because this is the second time this has happened, are you seeing a better response from last year? Are people starting to understand what you guys are doing? And
Definitely. We just came from the UN last week in New York for Climate Summit, and it is happening. The movement is there. Greta Thunberg spoke at the UN. The people are reacting. People see what's in front of them. The hurricanes are getting stronger and more intense. It's more expensive to recover from them. The droughts, the floods, everything is in front of your eyes. We can't deny it anymore.
yeah, absolutely. And then what is the purpose of today? Because we saw a lot of great speakers so far, but what are you and David really trying to get out of this climate correction?
I think what we want is for people to connect the dots. Everything that you are worried about is influenced or affected by climate change. If you care about health, if you care about economy, if you care about immigration, if you care about national security, everything is affected by climate change. And we try to connect the dots. We have speakers are talking right now about agriculture and how your food is going to be, the price is going to go up, or you're not going to have the food because the drought has been too long. So connect the dots. We have a panel with health and how the asthma and the allergies are higher because of the climate. So everything connects to climate change.
Absolutely. No, it's all great advice. And if people want to know more about Volo Foundation or what you guys do annually, where can they go to find that?
VoloFoundation.org. We have platforms in Instagram, Facebook. So follow us and hashtag climate correction. The most important thing is share what you learned today here, talk to each other, and bring awareness about climate change.
That's it. I love it. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, Tony.
We love you.
Love you.